The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Shaheen.
The chair recognizes Mr. Shaheen to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment makes it clear that an individual not lawfully present in the United States but is still domiciled in a designated country hostile to the United States cannot purchase property. I move it.
Mr.
Speaker, I have
Christian, for
questions
what
for the
purpose?
gentleman, please.
Mr. Manuel, excuse me.
Can you
Mr. Manuel, for
open
what
this?
purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Would
for
you
his
yield,
amendment?
Mr. Shaheen?
Sure.
Can you explain that amendment? I couldn't hear you as
Yeah.
you were laying it out, please.
So on page 4, line 24, it inserts the words after
Wait, sorry, you said
country.
page 4
Page 4.
of your current amendment?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, it's not currently loaded up.
Oh, okay. Well, let me explain it to you while
Please, thank you.
you're pulling it up. So the construct of this section of the bill lists the individuals that are not permitted to purchase property.
Okay.
So the way you would read the amendment in context of the bill is the following may not purchase land if it's an individual who is domiciled in a designated country, so they're designated in the list of countries that are hostile to the United States, and is not lawfully present and residing in the United States at the time the individual purchases, acquires, or holds the interest.
Okay. And it's only in these countries that, with the former amendment and within the bill, that we're saying are adversarial countries, which is Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China. Is that correct?
It's referencing the definition on page 2, row 24, where it describes designated country, and it references the United States Director of National Intelligence as a country that poses a risk.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I move.
Mr. Little, for what
Oh,
purpose?
sorry.
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Would you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
Sure.
He would.
Chairman Shaheen, I think there may be a little bit of confusion about the impact of your bill, and I just want to resolve something for the members of this chamber. If someone is properly here in the country but not a citizen of the United States, so someone who's on a visa and is properly in the United States, but they are found to be an agent of a hostile foreign government like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, they will still fall within the scope of this bill, won't they?
You're exactly right, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Shaheen.
Mr. Speaker, I move
Mr.
adoption.
Speaker.
Ms. Weiner, for
Will
what
the-
purpose?
Will the gentleman please yield for some questions?
Would you yield, Mr.
Sure.
Shaheen?
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, Representative Shaheen. I know you're trying to get through your amendment, but we're trying to make sure we fully get what it does
No problem.
before we vote on it.
Sure.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the underlying bill contains certain classes around who is impacted, i.e. folks associated with certain nations who are not lawful permanent residents. And so you're effectively tightening this a little bit. Am I reading that accurately?
It's specifically what it's doing is it says if an individual is domiciled, or let's say they have a home in one of the designated countries, so again, that's a country that we've identified as poses a risk to the United States, and they're here in the United States unlawfully, they can't purchase land. So I mean, if you want to characterize that as tightening, I guess.
Okay, thank you,
Sure,
Representative.
you bet.
Mr. Tenderholt, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman here for
Would
question?
you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
Sure, yes,
He
sir.
will.
So are any of these people with visa, that hold a visa, could they be Chinese citizens?
If they are here legally and their visa is up to date, it would apply.
So if they're citizens of China, are all Chinese citizens, and I believe the answer is yes, members of the CCP?
No, that's an incorrect statement. Not all citizens of China are members of the CCP, because the CCP is guilty of horrific human rights violations. And I actually have constituents of mine that have suffered under communist China, and they would not associate themselves with a government.
My concern is we're creating an exception for Chinese citizens that are here on probably short-term visas to be able to buy this property. So I think the potential for people that spy on America and come here under false pretenses, this exception will allow them to buy property. That's my concern.
No, so your statement said if they're here on a visa, right? So even though they might be domiciled in a country labeled as a designated country, if they're here on a visa, they're here legally. What this is saying is they're unlawfully. But I think it's important. I think the scenario that you're worried about is covered under page 5, D2, Romanet 2, where it talks about if they're acting as an agent or on behalf of a designated country. It's the item that Representative Little pointed out.
I understand that, but we don't ever know. They're very good at what they do. I did intelligence in the military for a long time. We never know who those people are. They come here on legal visas, and they collect intelligence, and they're spies for China. So that's my concern with this is we may not know. The paragraph you're mentioning, I just saw that a couple minutes ago as well. But we don't know that they're spies. We don't know that they're bad actors. So this exception could allow or will allow some of these people to buy or lease property. Is that correct?
No, sir. It's not accurate. So again, with the amendment, the statute is very clear. So if you're domiciled from one of the countries that are designated in the bill, and you're here unlawfully, you cannot purchase land. In the other scenario, if you're here lawfully, but you're acting as an agent, which I think is the point you're trying to point out, they still can't buy land. So I think both of your scenarios,
The problem is we don't know that they're an agent, but they're here. We're creating an exception that could create that situation.
But sir, I mean, that's why we have law enforcement, right? I mean, at the end of the day, law enforcement has their responsibilities to find these individuals and then, go through their prosecutorial process with the district attorney or, whether attorney general or what have you.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. I respectfully disagree, but thank you for having this dialogue. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Money, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for some questions?
Would you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
He will. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Shaheen, your amendment would cover any person who is here on a temporary work visa or student visa, wouldn't it?
Well, it actually calls out somebody that's not lawfully here. So if they have a student visa, it actually doesn't apply.
But if they have but your amendment is calling out anybody, or your amendment is creating a class of people who are here lawfully, if they're here lawfully in the country.
Well, let me read the amendment to you, and it might help things. So in the context of the legislation, right, the way to read the amendment is the following may not purchase, acquire interest in real property, an individual who is domiciled in a designated country, and here's where the amendment comes in, and is not lawfully present. So when you're giving me scenarios saying they're on a student visa or they're on a temporary visa or whatever, this would be an individual that maybe they were under a visa, now the visa's expired, now this applies because they're not here lawfully any longer.
Yeah, a person who is not lawfully present and residing in the United States
Yes,
is
sir.
not allowed to purchase, acquire, or hold the interest in the property. So that would also mean that a person that is lawfully present and residing in the United States is able to purchase, acquire, and hold the interest, correct?
Yes, I have a constituent that was at Tiananmen Square, and if you remember what happened there was an uprising in China against the communist government because of human rights violations or what have you, and she came to the United States legally, didn't speak any English, and she became a United citizen. And we want those individuals to be able to purchase land. And by the way, she would end up not only became a United States citizen, but she became a member of the local school board. That's
Sure.
what we want.
And U.S. citizens are going to be able to purchase property under this or any other law that we would pass, whether we have your amendment or not. What I'm concerned about is someone that is here on a temporary work visa, student visa.
The gentleman's time has expired.
May I make a motion for an extension, please?
Members, you've heard the motion to extend the time. Is there objection? The chair hears none, so ordered.
I forgot. I just asked a brilliant question. I don't
It
remember
really
exactly
was,
what
but
it was.
I can't remember it either, but it really was brilliant.
And but the point is, we would be allowing under your amendment people here under a temporary work visa, temporary student visa, even a tourist visa. Is that correct?
Well, they
because they would
already-
be here legally.
But the bill already, I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you.
Well, they would be here legally, and if they are here legally under your amendment, they would be lawfully present and residing in the United States, and they would be able to purchase, acquire, or hold the interest.
I don't think the amendment is coming across. So I think if I read it, what it talks about is individuals that are not lawfully in the United States. And the examples you're giving me is they're actually here legally. And so what this amendment is saying is, if you're from a country that's hostile to the United States, and you're here illegally, unlawfully, you cannot purchase land. This is what we want. This is
Right. But it's a double negative. So if you flip it around, it also means that if you are from a hostile country and you are here lawfully, you are lawfully present and residing, then you may purchase, acquire, and hold the interest.
if you're here lawfully,
Correct.
yeah.
Under your amendment, if a person is
So
here
you-
lawfully,
If somebody's here lawfully, yes, but you have to remember on page 5, line 9, it talks about if you're acting as an agent on behalf of one of the designated countries, then you can't buy the land. So
certainly that needs to be the case. But the fact is, at least my understanding of the reason why we wanted this legislation in the first place is because we don't always know who is acting on behalf of that foreign country. But there's a presumption that if you're still a citizen of that country, that you have more loyalty to that country than you do to our country. If
not
you're
necessarily, sir. If I may interrupt you, I gave you an example of a woman that has no love of China, for example. She
Right.
was tortured by the Chinese.
Right.
So
And she
no,
came
I would
here-
say she came to the United States and she's an awesome citizen. So no, I wouldn't agree with you. Now look, if there's bad actors, right?
But-
Regardless, if I can answer your question, if there's bad actors in the United States, whether they're here lawfully or lawfully, this legislation addresses that. Because again, on page 5, it talks about if there's an individual acting as an agent or on behalf of the agent. Then I would draw you to the next section of the bill, section 5.254, where it talks about investigation and enforcement by the Attorney General. And,
Right.
and there's even a portion of the current statute that talks about law enforcement referrals. So all that to say is, I think we're covered, and quite frankly, this amendment is something that we want. We don't want people here that are unlawfully present in the United States to buy land. So to be a little transparent with you, I'm really confused why you're having an issue with this amendment.
people who are
Do you want
unlawfully
people that are here unlawfully to be able to buy land?
No, it already there's already a prohibition for people who are. Well, let me back up.
Okay. I think
The
it's
purpose of
important
this-
to
no,
understand
let me
that
ask
we
my
don't
question.
want people that are here in the United States unlawfully, that are from a country that are hostile to the United States to be able to buy land, and that's what this amendment
No.
does. And I'm puzzled
Okay.
over your question.
Then let me make it very clear.
Okay.
My understanding of what we were trying to accomplish with this bill, what the Republican Party of Texas is trying to accomplish, and the people who ran
The
against
Republican
me
Party of Texas
in my
should love this.
no
There's
is
a
that-
problem if they
is
don't.
that there is a there is a class of people that we are concerned about buying property in Texas.
100%.
People from foreign countries that are hostile to us.
Right.
You are limiting it to only people from foreign countries who are hostile to us who are here illegally. So
Sir.
that anyone who is here legally who is from a country that is foreign hostile from us is now no longer included. And so my question is, we have limited this bill from anyone from these countries unless they are coming here to be citizens to, we have cut it all the way down to only people who are illegally here from those countries.
No.
Yes.
So on page,
that's what your
so on
amendment would
page-
do.
So on page 5, you have is a citizen of a designated country who is unlawfully present in the United States or is a citizen of a country other than the United States and acting as an agent or on behalf of a designated country. So again, with this amendment, what we're doing, I want to be crystal clear with you. If you're here unlawfully and you're from one of the hostile countries, you cannot buy land. If you're here lawfully, but you're acting as an agent, you can't buy land. So again, I'm confused
Let me
on
make
why
it- okay.
that
If-
you have an issue with this
Yes.
amendment. 'Cause we do
I'm
not.
having
let
a
me,
hard time
hold on,
too.
sir. You asked me a question, and I'm
Sure.
not done answering. So, at the end of the day, it should be very clear. We don't want people from the hostile countries that are here breaking the law, buying our land. I don't know why that's difficult.
Go ahead. The bill currently says that those people cannot buy cannot buy land. So the way the bill currently is, people here illegally from foreign countries cannot buy land, and people who are here legally from foreign countries cannot buy land. Your amendment would allow anyone who is here legally to buy land. People who are here illegally from any country should be deported. People who are here from foreign hostile countries should be deported. And people who are here legally from countries that are hostile foreign countries should not be able to buy land regardless of whether they are here legally or illegally. Your bill would your amendment would gut this bill and leave it only that illegal aliens from those countries are not allowed to buy property, or people that we can prove.
Your statement's inaccurate.
Or people that we can prove
I'm
are
sorry.
acting as an agent or on behalf of a designated country. And so I want to limit everyone from those countries that are a citizen of that country from being able to buy land here. You want to only be able to limit illegals and people that we can prove are acting as an agent of the foreign country. That's just a difference in what we are trying to accomplish. I think it is a big mistake to accept your amendment.
Respectfully, I don't think you understand, and I've repeated myself
sure
3 times.
I'm sure that I do.
If you think it guts the bill to make an individual from a hostile country that's here unlawfully be able to buy land, I'm not sure
let
what
me
else
ask
I
you
can
this.
do.
Under the
when it
bill
talks about-
currently-
excuse me, sir. You asked me a question.
I'm going to admonish the members. The chair will admonish the members not to speak over one another.
Yeah, you asked me a question, so if you wouldn't interrupt me, it would be helpful.
Yeah.
So I've got that scenario, and then I've pointed to you, I don't know how many times on page 5, about if they're acting as an agent on behalf of a designated country, they can't buy land.
I've
and
one
then it talks
question.
about, excuse me, sir.
Mr. Speaker?
I'm going to answer your question, and you can try to interrupt me if you want. But then I
haven't asked a
explained to
question in a
you,
while.
starting on row 11, about the law enforcement piece of it.
The one question I have, under Chairman Hefner's current bill, or SB 17, under SB 17 as written without your amendment, do you believe that a person who is here unlawfully from one of these designated countries is able to purchase property?
We're on the amendment.
I know, but you're telling me that I don't understand your amendment.
You don't.
I do understand your amendment because what you
You
told
just
me
asked
that your
me-
amendment
You
says.
just asked me a question about the bill, and we're on the amendment.
Okay. if we do not pass your amendment, because I need to understand what your amendment does.
Okay.
If
so
we do
let
not
me-
pass your amendment,
Let me just read it to you.
would an
okay?
illegal, no, I've read the amendment. If we do not pass your amendment, would an illegal alien from Iran be able to purchase property?
No, an illegal alien from Iran would not be able to purchase
Thank
property.
you.
Mr. Speaker,
The gentleman's time has expired.
move adoption.
Hurry up.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hefner to speak for the Shaheen Amendment.
Members, this amendment does not weaken the bill. On page 5, line 9, anyone acting as an agent or on behalf of a designated country is banned from owning land in this state. The next section spells out how the Attorney General's investigatory process would play out in proving if these people are hostile foreign actors. That's going to happen with every case. So if you're proven through that investigation that you're acting as an agent or on behalf of a designated country, it doesn't matter what your visa status is. You will have your land divested.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hopper to speak against the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, really simple. I ran on this issue. This was one of the most important issues door to door across my district, and people expected me, and I promised them to make sure that folks from North Korea, that citizens of communist China, the citizens of Iran would not be able to buy land in Texas. You know, who would have thought in 1836, after we won our independence, that all that Santa Anna had to do was to come and buy Texas to get it back? It's actually ridiculous that we're debating this because this amendment does actually gut this bill. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my understanding. Thank you all very much.
Chair recognizes Mr. Money to speak against the Shaheen Amendment.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Tinderholt, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for one or two questions?
Yes, I will yield for questions.
The gentleman yields for questions.
So when we first looked at this, we were looking at it thinking, hey, maybe this is okay. But the more we looked, it brings a question to mind. No matter what the intent of a member of one of these visas is when they come here, and oftentimes we don't know the intent, will this amendment allow more CCP members to buy property in Texas?
Unquestionably.
Some may be good actors, and many may not,
Absolutely.
because we never know who the intelligence collectors are on purpose. So I want to clarify this. This amendment will allow more CCP members to purchase Texas property.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Speaking against this amendment very briefly, the bill that is before us here is a good bill. It's not perfect, but it's a good bill. And it limits any individual who is a citizen of one of these foreign countries from purchasing property here. This amendment says that anyone from one of those countries who is here legally can purchase a property. It guts what I think was the intent of the bill, and that's why I'm against it.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
would the gentleman yield?
I will yield for questions.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you. People who are lawfully here and have been vetted by the United States government to be here, vetted for background and everything else, and they're granted a visa to be here. Do you believe that even after the government vets them and gives them permission to be here, that they're still suspect?
I still do not think that they should be able to purchase property in the state of Texas.
And so let's be honest. Let's apply this to my people, to Chinese people. You're saying that every single Chinese person is a potential threat and a potential spy.
I need to know what you mean by that. So
It's what you said.
I do not think that every single person who is of Chinese origin or Iranian origin or North Korean origin, or even people who were there recently are. But people who maintain I think it is, as a public policy, people that maintain their citizenship in that country, and they are here temporarily, should not be able to buy land in Texas.
How do you know when someone can drop their citizenship of another country?
I do not know the circumstances that require renouncing citizenship legally.
For my family, when we became United States citizens, it's the day that you are sworn in as a citizen. Do you understand that every immigrant in this country, every single one, until the day that they are sworn in as a United States citizen, they are a citizen of another country until that moment. Do you understand that?
Yeah, and some people maintain dual citizenships. I don't know if that's possible with these countries, but I do know that that is possible as well.
In fact, when this bill came up the first time, we talked about Iranian Americans. Most Iranians who are here as refugees of some kind. Most of them are fleeing Iran, right? And they are considered dual citizens because Iran says, we don't care what American law is. If you're Iranian, by any amount of blood, you're our citizen. So America says, you're dual citizens. Okay? And originally, as this bill was written, would have included that. Do you think that's fair to include people who are already American citizens?
Of course not. No. Once you're citizen, and this amendment would not mean that citizens of the United States could not purchase property here, regardless of where they are from originally.
And so when we first proposed this legislation, we also included green card holders, permanent residents. Do you think they should be included?
I would be fine with a permanent resident. I mean, this is not about the amendment, but if you're just asking me, I'm fine with permanent residents that are probably working toward citizenship. Maybe they've married an American citizen and they're here. That's fine.
That's not how green cards work.
It can be, but
so you understand that this amendment will allow refugees and other people here who are here lawfully, who came the right way, as we kept saying, who came the right way, to give them a chance, because you can't become a permanent resident unless you can show the United States government, I have an ability to have a permanent home here. That if you say, I don't have any money, I can't buy a house, they say, we're not going to give you a green card. We're not going to let you be a resident. You understand that in order for those refugees who are fleeing China, fleeing Iran, fleeing North Korea, that they would be barred by this bill from purchasing land if not for this amendment.
I'd like to stick to the amendment, but anyway, I'm against the amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Shaheen to close on his amendment.
Members, if you oppose an individual that is here from a hostile country and is also here illegally, you need to support this amendment.
Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Patterson, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a couple of questions?
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Sure, I'd be
Gentleman
happy
yields
to.
for questions.
Okay, Mr. Sheen, with your amendment on this bill, if you are here illegally from a hostile foreign nation, can you buy land?
No, sir, you cannot.
Okay, Mr. Shaheen, if your amendment goes on this bill, If you're here legally from a hostile foreign nation, but you're acting as an agent, can you legally buy land?
No, sir.
Okay. Regardless of if your amendment goes on or not, does there have to be an investigation to know whether or not you're here from one of these nations? And does that go through a whole investigation, court process, and then divestiture, regardless of if your amendment goes on or not?
That's right. This
Okay.
is a great amendment. It's going to make Texas a safer and better place. Vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Little, for what purpose?
Will Chairman Shaheen yield for just a couple more questions?
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Gentleman yields.
Chairman Shaheen, I'm sorry, you almost got away. As someone who wrote a similar bill to the one being offered by Chairman Hefner here, mine was modeled on Arkansas's Act 636, which was signed into law by Sarah Huckabee Sanders, preventing foreign-controlled parties from owning real estate in this state, as well as agents and trustees of foreign governments. My understanding of your amendment is that in Texas, we will still bar foreign-controlled business entities and individual agents and trustees of hostile foreign governments, even with your amendment.
Yes, sir, that's accurate.
You concur?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Move adoption.
Mr. Shaheen sends up an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. However, a record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Hefner voting aye. Show Mr. Shaheen voting aye. Show Mr. Little voting aye. Have all members voted? Show Ms. Garcia Aber voting aye. Show Mr. Verdell voting aye. Show Ms. Morales-Shaw voting aye. Have all members voted? There being 120 ayes and 19 nays, the amendment is adopted. The following announcement, the clerk will read the announcement.